Welcome to the monthly business meeting of the Cook County Housing and Redevelopment Authority. This is May 20th, 2026, and we're at the Cook County Courthouse. First, I'd note the presence of a quorum. Commissioners, let's see, go the other way. Nick Lamour, Bill Hanson, Richard Olson, and our county commissioners, Commissioner Gamble and Commissioner Sullivan. And I think we'll get the meeting going. First item is approval of the agenda, which was presented to us earlier by our executive director. Any questions about the agenda, or is there a motion to approve it?
Move to approve.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Approval of the April 15th, 2025 minutes. Hopefully you've all read them, and I know I have, but Maggie's heard about the few corrections that were needed. It's a real professional job, and so I appreciate her being here and taking care of us with that. Is there a motion on the approval of the minutes?
Also move.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Seconded. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opportunity for public comment, and there's no public member present, so we'll go on to new business. Jeff, do you want to walk us through Resolution 26-15, please?
Yeah. So Resolution 26-15 is the conversation that we have today about our budget levy, our budget request for the county levy, rather. And so attached, you'll see Exhibit A is the budget document that Chris and Bill and the Finance Committee, so Chair Gabler and Vice Chair O'Brien, put together with some numbers that are a little updated from last year, and they reflect the changes in pricing of a couple of different items on that list. I'm still trying to find it here in the documents, so sorry, I'm scrolling here. Here we go. It's page 7 in your packet. So as you look here, we just completed our 2025 audit, and so we were able to look at what the budget was versus the actual expenditures and that sort of thing. 2026, we're still in 2026, and so we don't have a great idea of how we're going to end until we end, but we do have a great idea, an educated guess at least, of how we're going to go for the rest of 2026. The 2027 budget, as you see here, there's a little bit of a increase in a couple of different areas. If you start at the beginning there's the conversation around salary, which is not something that I have actually brought up. It was something that the chair and vice chair brought up. I don't advocate for my own salary, of course. It's something that the personnel committee deals with. And then also the benefits, the increase in benefits price. That's the price that the HRA pays to the HR folks for the benefits that I have as an employee. And then we go down the list a little bit. Office lease at $450. That actually, it's $575 a month. We worked on that last year. We approved the additional budget change. We don't do $450 every other month now. We do $575 per month. And then also, as you scroll down there, legal fees and that sort of thing, it just reflects the additional change in fees because, of course, our legal folks, their time has increased year to year as well. Our auditing services reflects a higher amount. We are paying $21,000 for the 2025 audit, which we just completed. You'll remember, and you'll hear from Andy Herring next month, but last year when we talked with Andy Herring, He talked about the difference in price and of course how that reflects when it comes to the costs associated with errors and omissions insurance and how that's passed through to the people that we contract with and that sort of thing. And so we've kind of anticipated that there will be an additional change in that cost for the 2026 audit next year. And throughout the list there as well, a little bit more in the contingency just because of costs that increase. Other than that, I'll pass it back to the chair for any additional things that maybe I had missed.
I don't think we missed anything. We've tried to keep the budget in balance and around 3% if it's possible, but there's some areas that we had concern about, certainly, and the contingency's up is only 3%, but that's an area that we hope we can meet that budget, but otherwise, trying to keep a lid on things other than the audit was a surprise compared to our budget, which we budgeted $13,000 and it was $21,000 was the final bill that we got for the audit, and don't have any option but to pay that if we want to keep the auditor happy and productive. And but I would assume perhaps the county's seen some of that same increase in their audit price. Commissioner Gamble.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. To that extent, when you projected your initial costs that you anticipated for the audit, and if that firm, I don't recall if that firm is the same firm that was used before.
It was.
It was.
They're the
So
only ones
it's not
that
like they're
audit.
stepping into something new. And so I'm just wondering if that anticipated cost was because getting in and trying to get things aligned for future audits, typically you would see that price maintain or reduce once they got in and organized, and now we know what we're doing and we are consistent with the provider. It doesn't sound like that's necessarily the case, so it must something else that pushed it beyond the point of what you anticipated.
It was kind of new, wasn't it? I mean, wasn't it?
It was.
It was a different, you're auditing a different set of figures than before, right?
Yes.
Because the county was taking some of it before and we took that over.
That's fair.
Well,
So
it's-
that was, the scope
yeah.
changed, and then they had to do a lot of thinking to get
Yeah,
the
I think we
procedures
got
right. So you're right, in
a
the
bit
future,
of,
it should be less.
a bit of a free ride from the county's
Yeah.
use of the same auditor,
So
but
it
now.
did change, and then it
it's-
was, sorry, go ahead.
That's all right.
It was complicated by the change in leadership as well.
Yeah, well,
So-
that's helpful, but also, you know, exiting that audit, the question is asked, moving forward, how do you think this will appear? So that they would say, well, I don't think we're going to have some of these issues here. If it's a matter that the county, you know, absorbs some of that cost, then moving forward, if that's not going to be the case. But anyway, just wondering, because it is a change, so you try to understand why is that change
Sure.
reflected on our,
The other item that we're up a bit, 10%, it's a fairly minimal number in reality for bookkeeping services. We'd like to have a better correlation between the QuickBooks that's produces our monthly record of expenditures and the budget categories here. And that would help the Finance Committee, for one thing, be able to report in relation to the budget without just eyeballing it, which is what we do now. And we're doing the best we can, but we're hoping that the bookkeeper can help us out on that. And it's a very
I don't
reasonable
recall
expense.
on the report following the audit recommendations relative to that, how we might be able to, let's just say, build some integrity into process and something that's more user-friendly when it comes to analyzing figures. If those recommendations and our own lived experience defines that, then we might be able to achieve what you're hoping for.
That's the goal. So, any other thoughts or questions on the budget request?
I'll move adoption of resolution number, I've lost it,
2615?
2615,
Yes.
or it's 2616, isn't it?
2616.
15.
Oh, 15, sorry. I second.
No, the budget
Right,
adoption is the 2015, the
Oh, sorry,
payment
that's
to,
the auditor. We're
payment to
talking
the
about
auditor that we
auditors.
just talked about will be next.
2615.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the budget request? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay.
On to explanation of 2616, authorizing payment to Redpath.
Yes, and so in your packet on page 8 and 9 is the conversation around Resolution 26-16, which is a $21,000 invoice that I received from Redpath for the 2025 audit that is now completed. Again, they are not able to make it today. Andy actually had a medical appointment that was scheduled well in advance, and so we'll get him on the schedule for next month, and he'll have the presentation next month for us. But still, there's some in-house work with the invoice, and so he's asking for us to pay the invoice, and so I'm presenting it for you for discussion and approval.
And the Finance Committee would recommend approval of this as well. Is there a motion to approve the bill from Redpath of payment?
Move to approve 2616.
Been moved, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the item? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to 2617, which would conclude some survey work. So Jeff, you want to
Yeah.
take us through that, please?
Yep, on page 10 of your packet, and page 11 is a map. We're talking about the former Tom Tabota Motel, across the street from the Aspen Inn as you come into Grand Marais, and what I call the Gateway District to Grand Marais. And in that conversation, we are working with the EDA. There's a $1.3 million workforce housing development grant that was received back in 2024 and executed in 2025, with all construction being concluded by the 1st of January 2028, and final payout of that in January 31st of 2028. Still some work to be done in order for us to get this site to be developed. And so, Mike Roth, City Administrator in Grand Marais, and I had a conversation about where we go from here in conjunction with the development of those 16 units of workforce housing. And I had a conversation with Charlie Troval over at North Shore Surveying as well. We were actually all at that site yesterday to kind of figure out what's what and what's where. And the conversation was around who pays for the survey and that sort of thing. We do have some funding in our budget for pre-development costs that weren't expended from a previous grant. And so it makes sense for us to use up to $5,000 of that money for the purposes of us figuring out what that boundary looks like for that property that the city is interested in conveying to a developer for the workforce housing project. And so I'm asking you all today to support a resolution to get that survey work done. North Shore Surveying does have kind of a backlog of work right now, so it'll be next month. But next month, that work will get done if we approve this.
Let's get going.
Is there a motion on 2617?
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Other business, the director report.
Yeah, I'll keep this kind of short. The Birch Grove billboard, I drove by it this few days ago. It's still not up yet, but they are working with a advertiser to get that billboard up with the new advertising, with the new client and that sort of thing. So our agreement is fully executed, and they're chugging along as fast as they can to get the billboard renovated and ready to go. So it's good to see that we've got some progress in the midst here as we get to another season where we're going to get a lot more tourists and tourism for Cook County. It's nice to see the billboard doing the work that it's needing to do, so.
Jeff, I haven't noticed this sign, the coming soon sign for the development there is gone.
It's gone.
Okay.
Part of it's still in my office. The actual sign part is in my office because I didn't know where else to go with it. And so I think we've retained it for over 6 months since we eliminated any agreements with the developer. And so I've held on to it for long enough.
Yeah.
Anybody who was looking for some potential firewood, let me know. So in the eventuality that we actually have a billboard that's up, I'll make sure to get pictures of that so you know what we're leasing, what it looks like and that sort of thing. But for right now, we've got the agreements have been fully signed by the township and ourselves as well, and so we are ready to go for that. So the next point that I wanted to make, and I'm not really sure why I brought up the 1800 West Highway 61 project, other than, I guess, what we were talking about today, and it's just getting some site work and some work done so we can continue moving forward on that project. We do have some deadlines that are really important to us. We want to make sure that that money is utilized. It's in partnership with the EDA, and so we'll continue to work on that project together. Recent legislative activities, I just received an email a couple of days ago from the Minnesota Housing folks. The dust is still sort of settling over at the legislature about what was passed at the legislature, as it always is the case, right? But there was a request to thank legislators, and so I know that job is a tough job. Especially at the end, you're not getting lunches, you're not getting suppers, you're just discussing stuff all day long. But there was a package of legislation that totaled $165 million that was passed. You'll remember at the beginning of the year when I was mentioning the budget and not budget year items and interest in spending some of the money that they might have or might not have to play with at the legislature. There's this fiscal cliff that they're looking at for a fiscal deficiency in out years. And so they didn't spend a lot of money, but they spent some money in some very strategic ways. They passed a bipartisan $165 million package for housing at the legislature in the last few days. $100 million of that went to housing infrastructure bonds. $40 million went to family homeless prevention and assistance programs. And that was through the Tyler settlement. And that was, the Tyler settlement had to do with forfeiture of land and how that funding goes, who gets what. And then the last $25 million went to Greater Minnesota workforce housing, supportive housing and homelessness across the state, manufactured home infrastructure grants, homeownership education, and tenant education and hotline services for folks across our state. So of the $25 million, all of that stuff fits into that $25 million. But it's definitely some money will go to a good need across our state. Any questions on that? Before we move topics, okay. And then I guess the financials are the next step of the discussion. That's all I had for my report today.
Yeah, that's nothing unusual in the financial statements. We're spending some money, but really the finance committee's done its job and looked at it. And don't have anything to say other than we'll keep going.
Yeah.
Other topics? Any committee reports? Well, that was the finance committee. It was reported. And I don't think we've had other committees meeting at this stage, but any commissioner items that we want to discuss? Commissioner Hanson.
I had a conversation with Kim Wolf, who's, kind of the She's the Gary Latz of Norriscogan. She said if she had any idea how much work it was gonna be, she never would've gotten into it. But now she's in too deep to back out, so. So just an update, maybe everybody else knows this, I didn't know, but they are doing work. And they have two lots sold, at least on paper. I don't think they've closed on either one, but one was gonna close in May, and then the other one, I think, in early June. And then they're thinking those are the two that will get built this construction season, and the others won't, but they'll continue to sell lots. So I asked her about their model, and it got me to thinking, but their model is that they, initially, when they proposed that they were gonna build 12 houses and sell them, all for the same price, identical houses. Well, now they're selling only the lots, but you can only buy one if you have a construction loan in hand. And then they have their model home, their plan, that you sort of commit to building, but you are allowed within certain limits to customize it. So you can kind of make it your own. They're gonna be different colors now, not all one color, which I think is nice.
Okay.
And you can build, like a different porch or, whatever. You can basically do whatever you want as long, if you're willing to pay for it, and still stay within the HOA restrictions. So they have two sold. The first one that sold is someone who rented at the Heights. So it's a nice progression and shows probably we'll see that route in the future again. But it did get me to thinking about their plan. Their goal is next year to build 4, and then 4 the year after that, and then the final 2 the year after that. And she did comment, just, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she said that might be ambitious, but that's what we're going for. So
Okay.
might go better than they think too, I think, but because I think there'll be demand there. But it got me thinking about Birch Grove.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that might be a model for the first phase of Birch Grove, where we basically fund and develop the infrastructure and the plan, and then have guidelines for the building. And then we sell lots to people who have a construction loan. And it's actually the model they used in Schroeder, up on the Kramer Road. I forget the name of the development, but years ago, 20-some years ago, they really did the first land trust deal in Cook County. The Schroeder Township did it on their own, and they had, I can't remember now how many, but it was a substantial number of lots, I think maybe a 60-acre parcel, and they sold the lots for development. I don't think they had a lot of restriction on what you built, but they all sold and they all got built on. I think there was a requirement to build. You couldn't just buy a lot and hold it. But it's been fully subscribed for many years, and it's a real boon to the town of Schroeder, so there's a precedent out there. So it's just something I thought I'd bring up for people to be thinking about as maybe a way forward at Birch Grove, where we could get that first phase up on its feet, because we've done so much of the pre-development there that it'd be a shame to let that slide away,
Yeah.
Well, I think the transition at Norriscogan from the realtor and developer building everything and switching to this model of, requiring a construction loan before they buy a lot, it just makes a lot more sense for the organization that's doing it, and a lot less risk over time. And so I think that model is certainly well worth considering.
I do
Commissioner
like,
Gamble.
We'd have to dig back to see, the Schroeder project is a land trust project, so the land stayed with the township. And I don't know if they actually formed a land trust, or townships can just do that, or if they just did it and didn't ask anybody. I don't know how that worked. But it would be nice if Birch Grove could be in that model as well, because that ensures affordability going forward. So whatever it takes, we always have our partner, One Roof Housing, to
Yep.
at least consult with, if not act as the land trust
Yeah.
on that. But, yeah, so anyway, just got, as usual, I'm scheming and thinking about housing. And
Nothing happens
after
without
that
it.
conversation, I was like, hey, that might
Nothing.
work for Birch Grove.
Nothing happens without scheming
Yeah.
and considering. Commissioner Gamble.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a brief conversation with Jeff in the area of evidence-based from the marketing standpoint. And the community, we get feedback when we see structure's going up and the community makes their assumptions and we try to give them what the reality, the facts are. It would be beneficial, especially in the partnership relationship we have with these entities and specific to Gunflint View and the Heights, if we could get a generic profile of who is renting. And why that is important is it would answer public curiosity and would also demonstrate how specifically we address need. And so when you look at the various groups, you've got people that are looking for housing that are workforce housing, and we have testimonials to prove that these properties have addressed that. We also have people that are downsizing, which, given our demographic and age, that they're looking to downsize and to be able to stay in the community. That is a certain demographic. And then there are individuals that are moving up and maybe like the area and can work from home, and so they choose to be able to do that because there's affordable housing. And then there might be another element, which are individuals that cannot afford to buy a cabin or a residential house that comes up in the market, but they could rent an apartment because they have the wherewithal to do it. And I guess it's a matter of what we can do in the context of what's allowable for disclosure, we'll say. But I think if it's simply generic, it would be good, something to understand, and it would help to direct what this board does in future housing.
Good comment. And one of the responses I'd have to that is that at the meeting that you both were at earlier, Commissioner, the superintendent of schools made the statement that he's actually made in an email before, but that this was, last year was the first year that he had filled all available teaching positions and they were all able to find housing, and that's in part because of Gunflint View, which was pretty well located for teachers, as it turned out. And then it turned out, I can't remember if it was at that meeting or another one I've had, that the new EDA director is living at the Heights. And so that was kind of a target market, was people who've got some potential jobs in Cook County, but need to find housing to be able to take those jobs. And so I think so far we're making some tracks, but good suggestion.
And in my experience too, in managing subsidized housing, that people, when they're desperate, they have an opportunity, a job, but they need to find housing. And so they just look and they'll call and say, you got anything available? And I said, are you, to find out if they even qualify.
Sure.
And basically they're just saying, I got a job and I just can't find any housing. And so what I would say is, in our experience of 16 years in managing subsidized housing, that we have 90% at least of the calls that I get are people that have been looking for housing, have no idea it's subsidized. They just need to find something. Whether it's the first service, the school, the hospital.
So I'm completely in agreement with you on, we need that, it has to be sort of anecdotal and generic because of privacy issues. But we actually had a presentation, I think, before you were sitting on the board, from Gunflint View when they were filling up. And they said it was a third, basically. A third people downsizing, and probably will be long-term residents are planning to stay there the rest of their lives or until something changes. About a third people upgrading from less desirable housing that they've been in, but they live here already and they're doing better. And a third are people coming and taking jobs that are coming for jobs that land there. They don't plan to be there long-term. It's just something they can get, start the job, they'll network, in a year or two they'll go. And that's been a question, Gary, the Heights is now well over 70% filled. In fact, there's a rumor around town that it's completely filled. And that's because people are calling, asking for 2-bedroom apartments, which are gone. So it's not full, but the remainders are certain types of apartments. And he echoed almost exactly the same thing. It's about a third of people upgrading. So that 2/3 population, some of them probably will stay there long-term, but most of them are looking at that as a temporary solution. and turnover, and that's important for us to remember because we don't want to overbuild in that category.
Sure.
And that's borne out by the project, the One Roof project in Lutzen, which is 48 apartments, I think, there, and they
Or
have,
16-unit buildings, I
yeah,
think.
whatever that, they're a lot, and they've, they're actually kind of at saturation. They're not anxious to build, well, there was supposed to be a second phase of that.
A lot of them going
But they
up.
said they thought people would move, get jobs at resorts and live there. And there is some of that, but most it's people get jobs at resorts, move there, and then they move elsewhere in 2 or 3 years. So they see that turnover, and they actually asked us last year if we would allow, that they have a restriction that you have to live and work in Cook County.
Sure.
And they ran into people that are working on long-term construction projects that wanted to be there for 9 or 10 months and didn't qualify because of that. And they were like, well, so then the apartment sits empty, that's stupid. So we actually granted them permission to have a little leeway that way for people that really are working here and living here,
Sure.
but they're not, they're gonna go away, but they're still long-term, so. So that's the intelligence I get informally
Yeah.
from the Heights and from down there.
Well,
So-
the basis, go ahead.
So the missing piece, it seems like, is the 50% AMI level.
Mm-hmm.
There's still high demand for that, and senior housing, and then sort of entry-level housing ownership, home ownership
Yeah.
is still a need.
Yeah, I think the important point in my comment is that this is the evidence, our response to the community, investment of dollars is to show the evidence of what we're accomplishing, whether the mission we set out and we've specifically identified, either through our own or outside surveys, we're addressing that need. How well are we doing? And I think because we're partnershiping on the financial and other areas with these entities, that there would be a gentleman's agreement to be willing to do that in the context of the provision of the rule of law so that it's demographic in nature. But we don't want to lose that information because it informs moving forward.
Absolutely.
Well, those are good comments, and I don't know if his ears were burning, but talking about partnerships and people moving into the Heights, Lucas, would you just introduce yourself to the Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board, please?
Why don't you come up to the microphone?
Yeah, but there's a
That way the
microphone
public will
for
be
you.
able to hear you.
Well, hello, everyone. For those of you who I have not yet had the pleasure of meeting, I'm Lucas Wakefield, and as of last month, I am the director of the Cook County Grand Marais Joint Economic Development Authority, and yes, very interested in establishing and deepening partnerships with the HRA however possible. And happy to answer any questions you have as well.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
We appreciate your being here, and so does the Heights.
It certainly is nice to have somebody else in the office with me. Long overdue.
Any other commissioner items? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Don't be bashful.
Also move?
Thank you. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Record meeting.
That's close to it.
Good success.
It's close to a record.
Yeah? Well,
Being that
you know, 10% of what we
Bill?
were